Hello, boys and girls. We're going to be learning about one of the classes of vertebrates today. We have talked about warm-blooded versus cold-blooded animals. Now, this is one of the classes of animals that is cold-blooded. Okay, a little background about cold-blooded versus warm-blooded. I'm going to read a section from your What Your Third Grader Needs to Know book. Fish, amphibians, and reptiles are all cold-blooded. Birds and mammals are warm-blooded. Now, what do we mean by cold-blooded and warm-blooded? Now, snakes are cold-blooded animals, which means that their body temperature changes according to their environment and the temperature around them. Some animals get the warmth they need from the air or water around them. When it's hot outside, their body temperatures rise. When it's cold, their body temperatures drop. These animals are cold-blooded animals. It doesn't mean that their blood is always cold. It means their body temperature goes up or down depending on the temperature around them. Other animals stay nearly the same temperature no matter what, whether the air is hot or cold around them. These are warm-blooded animals like mammals and birds. Are you cold-blooded or warm-blooded? Us as humans, we're in the mammal category. We're warm-blooded. Most of the time, our body temperature is right at about 98.6 degrees, give or take a few degrees. Even when we're sick, it doesn't change that much. Okay, now one of the categories of animals that we're going to get into first, and we'll spend some time on each of the 5 classes of vertebrates, is fish. Now, fish are cold-blooded, and as you know, they live in water. They are the only class of animal that, for their entire life, lives in water. Now, they use gills to take oxygen from the water. They are still breathing oxygen just like any other animal, but they have gills to take in that oxygen. Most fish are covered with scales. Now, technically, scales are flat, hard pieces of skin that cover the body of a fish or reptile. So flat and hard. Most fish hatch from eggs that are laid by the female outside of her body. So there's a bunch of eggs that are laid, and then they hatch those little jelly-like eggs from a fish outside of the fish's body. Goldfish, trout, and sharks are different kinds of fish. We're going to be learning about some specific fish that I think you will find interesting today. Got another book that I'm going to be reading from. So tuna and swordfish are 2 examples of fish that have that internal, let me rewind back for a second. Fish that live where the water temperature remains constant, such as deep in the ocean, they have a constant internal temperature. Tuna and swordfish are examples of those kind of fish. However, fish that live in very shallow waters, such as minnow or trout, are likely to encounter varied water temperatures and have to swim around to find regions of water that have their optimal temperature. So all fish are cold-blooded, but some fish have to move around because the water temperature might change drastically. In the deep ocean, it actually can be very constant all the way across for these fish that live just always towards the bottom of the ocean. So sharp changes in temperature can actually kill a fish just by the changing of that temperature. Fish breathe by taking in water through their mouth and then passing it across the gills. Thin layers of skin that extract oxygen from the water and pump it into the blood vessels. The majority of fish are predators. They feed on invertebrates and smaller fish. For improved survival from predation, fish evolved thicker skins. And on top of that, most also have developed scales, those flattened, ridged plates, that is protection for them. Most fish lay eggs externally, which are then fertilized by the male fish. Now, some fish eggs are internally fertilized. That's similar to mammals, like any of us as humans. And they remain inside the body until they hatch into live young. Sharks are an example of that, okay? Now, as part of this section, we're going to look at some specific types of fish and make a connection to, and here it's South America, about the Amazon River and some of the interesting fish that live there. Do you remember any of them? You might be thinking of piranhas, right? That is one of the interesting types of fish we're going to look at. Now, let's skip down to that part first. Now, in the fresh waters of South America, there are about 20 different species of piranhas. These small fish have sharp teeth and very strong jaws. The red-bellied piranha sometimes hunts for other fish in groups as large as 100. When they hunt independently, they send a signal with another to one another once prey has been found. So they'll be able to signal to each other so that all together the piranha can go after a fish. The piranhas then have a feeding frenzy, with each one taking a bite and then swimming away to let other piranhas go in for a bite. Attacks on humans and other large animals are rare, but they do happen occasionally. So they have sort of a reputation of being especially violent fish, but it does not happen very often that they eat anything other than just a larger fish than themselves. Or, I mean, sometimes a smaller fish, but when they're working together, they're working to eat something that's quite large. Now, a couple of different other fish that we are going to talk about. One is salmon. Do any of you like eating salmon for dinner? Some of your parents might cook that regularly. Now, salmon are found both in the Atlantic, let me see if I can point correctly, yep, and then Pacific, all the way over there, and on this side of America. Now, these fish spend most of some of their time living in the ocean and then head to streams and rivers to spawn or produce offspring, have babies. Now, most fish are either saltwater fish, which means they live in one of these oceans, or they're freshwater fish. Salmon are one of the exceptions where they actually can do both. They live both places. So they live some of their time in the oceans, and then they go into the rivers to lay the eggs. Now, the male Pacific salmon undergoes a series of changes during spawning season, including changing color and sometimes developing a hooked jaw. The salmon then swim upstream as many as 2,000 miles up the Yukon River that we've just been talking about in Canada. So they go upstream along the Yukon River, swimming against the rapids, and that takes a lot of strength. If you've had salmon for dinner, you know that they're not very large fish, but they're strong. And they might even jump over waterfalls until they reach the spot where they traditionally spawn. Okay, so pretty unique that they start off in the salt water, and then they end up going through changes to be able to be in freshwater rivers and have the strength to go against the rapids. Rapids coming towards you are strong currents. They go against those. Okay, last type of fish we're going to learn about is the barracuda. Now, barracuda are fish usually found in warm or tropical regions. They can range in size from very small to large, with the largest of them about 6 feet long. So about the height of an average to tall human. That's how long these fish, the barracudas, can get. Barracuda are very fast and powerful fish, and they prey on other fish and eat them with their many sharp teeth, similar to the piranhas. Barracudas have even been known to attack humans swimming in the water, which sounds terrifying because it's like the size of a shark. So that's barracudas. Sharks are, once again, a fish as well. Whales are mammals. That's kind of one of the exceptions. There's a few exceptions where some animals don't totally go along with the categories of that classification. But a shark is, even though it has live young, it doesn't lay eggs. It stays inside of the mother. They are still fish, even though that's something that's a little different about them. Okay, so that is fish, and tomorrow you'll have some notes to take over them as well. I'll talk to you later. Bye.